Alright, what's up guys? Sage here. I am the UWG mid laner, and today I'm going to show you guys some Yasuo tech. I thought this might be a good idea because I'm about to record another video that's actually kind of important to talk about kind of just mid lane stuff, and I thought this would be a good way to get used to talking on a recording on camera and all that good stuff. Kind of getting my nerves out the way because I'm a very anxious person per se. But I also like just teaching stuff about Yasuo. I think he's a very difficult champion, very fun champion, and a very broken champion. So if you guys are interested at all, then I thought this might be a really cool little video to make. I do want to say that my mic is dropping a lot. I'm not really sure why or how to fix it. So if it cuts out a bit, sorry, don't know what to do. But yeah, let's get into it. So I'm gonna try to make this as short as I can. Still probably going to be a pretty long video, but I'm going to try to just speed run this. So Yasuo's kit, in a nutshell, your passive is Way of the Wanderer. So every time you take damage from a monster or champion, and I played Yasuo a lot, so I don't really kind of need to read it, but that's what it says. You get flow stacks, and it scales by level. Um, so your next hit will be tanked by a shield. Obviously, if you're doing more damage than the shield amount, it'll go through it. However, um, it soaks up some damage, so a lot of Yasuo's will always kind of be moving. It's never really good to stand still on Yasuo because you always kind of want to have this passive up as much as you can. So that's his passive. And then also your critical strike is doubled, but the damage reduced by 10%, I believe. Is it 10%? Yeah, it deals 10% reduced damage, but Yasuo's critical strike chance is increased by 150%. What? I think this is reworked a little bit because it used to just be doubled, but I don't know if the 150% is better or worse than it being doubled, but basically you get higher critical percent chance than other champions, so it's really broken in that sense, but it does do less damage. Damage not much. And also, if you exceed the critical chance strike chance of 100%, like the cap, you get bonus AD. So basically, like let's say you build IE or whatever, like old IE, and you go way beyond the critical chance strike. You might think it's like kind of useless, but you still get some AD to kind of benefit you. So that's his passive. His Q, basically like it's just a dab from about this range, and then after 2 charges, you get a NATO. Everyone knows that NATO knocks up. They all do the same damage. Doesn't do different damage. If it is ever doing more damage, it's just because of your runes or your items or whatever. Your wind wall blocks all projectiles aside from turrets, and then your E is just a dash. You cannot dash on the same person for a certain period of time, and then also your second cast will always do more damage than the first. So it says each use of the ability grants 25 bonus damage to subsequent targets. Not a lot of people know that. And then your wind wall gets bigger per level, and then your ultimate after someone is knocked up or displaced, and really kind of any way, you can dash to them and you do some decent damage. But it's mainly like a lot of people think that the ultimate itself is a big source of damage. It kind of is, but it's mainly just to help Yasuo stick onto people for a little bit longer, CC them for a little bit longer. But most of your damage is just coming from your auto Qs, really. So a Yasuo without ult, a lot of people don't realize is still really kind of deadly if they know what they're doing. Having ult is great, obviously. Like you preferably always want to have ult, and you preferably always want to have knockups on your team. But like a good Yasuo should be more than fine without it. So that's kind of his kit in a nutshell. Kind of spent a lot of time talking about that, but I wanted to really kind of cover the nitty and gritty. So some tips, some just basic tips on like Yasuo and laning. You always, as I kind of said, want to have your passive up as much as possible. Because Yasuo is kind of squishy with how he builds nowadays, at least until like later in the game. So you can take a lot of bad trades just from not having your passive up. But your passive is just really broken. Like if you have your passive up, you're gonna win most trades against mid laners, and even like top laners if you use it effectively. Um, so yeah, I mean that's the passive in a nutshell. And then your crit passive, it's just like I don't know. I mean, I don't really think about it too much. Just you're basically at 100% crit after like 2 items, which is really really broken. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people hate Yasuo. But your wind wall basically like a lot of Yasuo players, when they start out, they kind of just use their wind wall and then they kind of run away from it. As you get better and better at Yasuo, you'll start to realize that your W is just really, really broken. Like you can really kind of like kite around it and fight around it. You're basically, as long as you're inside the wind wall, you won't get hit by anything. A lot of people think you have to be kind of behind it like this. No, you can literally be inside it like this, and you will not get hit by like literally any projectiles. It's really a really frustrating to play against. So there are times where like a Morgana might be right here, Jin might be right here. If I'm like this, nothing is hitting me. It doesn't kind of matter that it kind of looks weird. It's one kind of really good way to use Yasuo's Wind Wall. And then for Eing, you always kind of want to try to eat to minions before you eat a champions. One, because you don't really want to eat a champions unless it's your last means of dashing, because it goes on cooldown for the enemies. And then you have no other way to stick on them. But also your E does more damage if you dash on a minion first. Um, and then, I mean, yeah, that's kind of just really some just basic Yasuo stuff. You want to be really aggressive in lane most of the time, just because you really do win a lot of trades with lethal tempo. You want to kind of keep them short at first, and then when you see a potential to all in, let's say their CC is down or like they're really out of position, then you want to kind of all in, trust yourself, push lethal tempo, and then make sure you're canceling properly. So it should be auto Q auto E auto auto Q auto E auto kind of. That was really bad, but basically just kind of get the most out of your Qs and autos and your Es to burst them really fast. And now for the advanced stuff. So and one thing I forgot to say, and this is important because it'll help you with advanced combos. Yasuo's Q cooldown is reduced with attack speed. Um, a lot of like the better players know this, but if you're starting out on Yasuo, you might not know this. So cooldown reduction on Yasuo is essentially pointless. The only thing it really helps is your ult and your W. Your ult's already on a really low cooldown, and your W is not so important where cooldown reduction is super beneficial. Um, just basically don't like be stupid without it. This is my best piece of advice. Your E cooldown's already like stupid low when it starts out at like 0.5 seconds, I think. So that's already kind of low. You can definitely feel the difference between 0.1 and 0.5. Um, it definitely makes a difference, but it's like you don't need cooldown reduction for E like ever. It doesn't really matter. So you don't really ever build cooldown reduction on Yasuo like ever. It's pretty true. You want to just rush attack speed. This is why he rushes Berserker Grease, because your Q cooldown is like everything. It means way more than your damage early game. And yeah, you want it at about 1.5. If you're a little bit better, you could have it at like 1.3 because you have lethal. But for the combos that I'm going to teach you, you kind of want it at about here to make it easier. The first kind of advanced Yasuo thing that you can do is called the Beyblade. I think the name came from like the TV show. Some people call it the EQ Flash, but most Yasuo OG mains will call it the Beyblade. So basically, it's where you transfer your EQ damage onto another target with Flash, like that. And the reason why this is kind of broken is because it's instantaneous to the sense of if you get this off and they don't flash before you flash, it is impossible to dodge, or at least like I've never seen someone dodge it like pretty much ever. Not even just me playing, like I have just never seen a dodge ever in a game. And feel free to test to see if you can do it. But basically, unless someone knows that you're gonna do this and they flash preemptively, like you can't, like just look at how fast it is. You're not really kind of dodging that. And basically, all you're doing is as soon as you press Q, you flash. So a lot of people do it wrong. They might do that, but it's just as soon as you press Q, just flash. Or they might like flash first, and it does that, which is clearly not as fast, and you're not also EQing. So how do I like? Yeah, they might do that. Sorry, trying to do it wrong after so long is hard. Let me quit minions. They're pissing me off. So it's like, so basically the reason why this is a lot better is because let's say like you're trying to chase someone and you know they have flash. Um, so if you try to like flash EQ or just like flash Q, whatever, like if you try to do that, It's fast, but it's like if someone's just faster than you or like they're high skilled, they might be able to flash out of that, and then now you both are down flash. But let's say you're in a position to where you can E off of someone and do this. If they wait for you to flash, they cannot um, stop that. So that's why it's kind of really good to know it. Obviously, you lose your flash, but it basically just guarantees that if someone's in kill range, they die. And there are a lot of clips on YouTube of people doing this. But it's probably the first thing that you should learn if you're pursuing Yasuo to mastery. The next thing to learn is that you can actually get a stack of Q while you're ulting. If you guys don't know, anytime you ult, you lose all stacks of flow, regardless of anything. That's what that is, right? Yeah, you lose all Steel Tempest stacks, sorry. You get your flow back, so like you get your passive instantly. This is another thing that you should kind of know about Yasuo's ult. Anytime you ult, you get your passive back, so if it's at 0, you instantly get it back. So a really smart way to ult is if you lose your passive, instantly ult to get it back instead of like ulting immediately and only having like one passive. I don't know if that makes sense. And sorry if I'm explaining this kind of poorly. I'm getting used to talking and stuff. But yeah, that's one way to use it. And but basically, like, let's say you ult, right? Like, you have to start over. But one way to kind of cheat this is if you Q just as you're about to ult, like you EQ just as you're about to ult. If you notice, I start off at 1, so I only have to Q him once to get it again. So this is how to do it. This is basically doing it the normal way, per se, like this. Now I have to Q 1, 2 times to get it back, and it's a lot slower. But if you do what's called an airblade, you can transfer it, and then you get 2. You're also transferring that Q damage too, so it does actually more damage than you would if you just ult normally. So this is kind of how you can one-shot people like mid ult. So again, this is the normal way. So look at kind of the damage and look at how many stacks I have. So that did like what 750. Now watch this dummy right here. If I do it right, I'm gonna transfer it, and this does. I don't think I auto before, so let me do that again. So this does 750, right? And then if I transfer it, sorry, it's hard because I'm like thinking about it. It's annoying. So see, this does 993 because I'm transferring the Q damage and you're also getting a stack. So it's really kind of good to know that. This is one of the more mandatory ones because you don't have to really like use summoner supposed to do it. All you really need is decent attack speed. And this is the reason why you kind of need like decent attack speed because you can do this with lethal tempo, but you need about 1.5 without lethal tempo to like do this because the maximum amount of CD you can have on your Q is 1.33, and you need at least a 1.5 CD to actually do an airblade because otherwise your Q will not come back off cooldown in time um, to do that. And another really weird thing on Yasuo is kind of like a bug. Anytime your Q is on 0.5 cooldown, you instantly get it back as soon as you E. I think it's because like it helps you Beyblade or airblade easier. But basically, like if you kind of notice, the cooldown actually goes away a little bit faster. It's really hard to see, but this is just like a Yasuo thing that a lot of good players know. So it'll instantly like reset. It doesn't really matter, but it's like a subconscious thing that you just kind of like pick up on. But anyways, that's airblading. So Beyblading, EQ flash, and then airblading is transferring that EQ damage onto the R. And this is way harder than it looks. It took me like a long time before I could do this consistently in game. And then the last thing in terms of like combos is called the keyblade. This is honestly probably one of the hardest things to do in League of Legends. I would say pretty like objectively, just because one, if you mess it up, you lose your flash. You also could mess up a kill. And it's just really hard. Like I don't know of many champions that have a combo that's this kind of long. I think Lee Sin is a contender for some of the hardest combos, of course. I think Yasuo is not necessarily Yone. Trying to think. There are champions with harder combos, but this is definitely one of the hardest. So basically, what you're doing is you're going to combine the Beyblade and the Airblade at the same time. So you're going to EQ flash into the first dummy, then EQ off of the second one, and then transfer that Q onto the same one. So it kind of looks like this. Um, that's it. So if you look at the damage, it did like about 1.4k. This is the most amount of damage you can do before they can react. So it kind of looks like this again. So 1.2 thousand. If you noticed with the regular just ulting on Yasuo, it did about 4, what is it, 750. The airblade was 950. A keyblade is about 1.2k. And another thing to kind of notice is that I also landed an auto in there as well. You can do, that's another kind of like Yasuo tip that you can do just with like a basic ult. Make sure you always auto before you ult because you always have time while they're knocked up. So it's like Q, auto, ult. See how much base damage that does. Auto, ult. So yeah, it's like 867 right there. And then you can kind of combine that with airblading as well. Oops. Oops. See, that's like 1.2k. And then putting it together with the keyblade, it's like 1.3k because you get off the auto at the end too. So this is basically like the max damage Yasuo combo. Um, and you can see like it's pretty like good because this is almost double the damage you could do without them ever being able to react to it. CC wise versus you just literally just pressing R. So it's 750 versus almost double the damage. Very hard to do, like um, but if you can do it, it's actually like really kind of worth it. Um, but yeah, I mean that's really it, uh, per se. And I can't always do it consistently, but like it's at the point to where like as long as I'm not like thinking about it too much, because thinking about it is probably like the worst thing you can do. You have to just kind of like get used to it finger wise and just practice it like over and over, and then you can kind of do it really fast. It's not one of the champions where thinking is a good thing. You gotta really kind of just mechanically practice and just get really clean over time. That's why I did my first I really million mastery points. I have almost 3 mil now before I kind of got like clean. The next part of Yasuo I'd say is his wall dashing. You can wall dash through pretty much every camp. Um, Basically you turn on your target champion's only key to get as close to it as possible. And Yasuo's E always goes a fixed distance. Fixed just means it always goes the same distance. And with knowing that and knowing that it goes through walls, you basically just get as close as you can for Gromp. It's probably the easiest to wall dash into, and you just stand inside his belly and then go right through. And then since it goes a fixed, you can also do it the other way around. Yasuo's wind wall gives him vision, so you don't have to waste a word. You can just E over and then try to get close to it, and then bam. You can do it through blue like this, and I can't do all of them super clean, but I'll try my best. I fucked up blue there. But wall dashing is really good in case you need to chase someone who flashes over a wall. You get escape. You can do some crazy escapes by wall dashing. So there's that one. You can wall dash through wolves like this. You can do raptors. Raptors is probably the hardest to do. It's like, yeah, it's really hard to do. I have not mastered raptors, but I have some pretty cool montages where I do raptors. I'll try to get it down at least once before I stop. Raptors are trolling me right now. So you can go back over this way, but you should be able to go through this way too, which is what I'm gonna try to pull up before I stop. What is this bug, bro? Why is it doing that? Maybe it's the patience meter. Fuck. Yeah, and I think part of the problem is I'm like overthinking it a lot. Like a lot of Yasuo is just like not overthinking the champ, honestly. I digress. Alright, let me try again. There we go. So, uh, there are Yasuo mains like Pizang and Dizuku who do that really, really well, way better than I can. And then the last one is Krugs. So, you can like, I don't know what word to pick. So the last one, you like wind wall over here, and then you can go back over like that and try to get down at least once. I've had times where like I'm getting chased in the jungle and I E through the Krugs, they flash over, and then I E back, and then they're like tilted. really, really hard. And these are things that are kind of mandatory to learn because it's not like it's flashy, but like you're not really losing anything. Like you don't have to use suns for this. That's kind of like the point of getting really good at wall dashing because instead of like eing over and then having to flash, if you're good enough, you can just e back through the Krugs. Um, this one's actually not that hard. I'm just like awful right now. So, but this one's actually way easier than Raptors, I'd say. God, what is this patience mean? I want to get at these ones. Let me try that one. Oh my God, guys, I cannot. I'm gonna do it at least once. Wow, what? I haven't failed it this many times in a minute. But it really does go to show how difficult the champion is. Like, there we go. Pursued at its highest level. And that's kind of like, there's obviously more stuff, but those are all like kind of the mandatory things that I would say you should learn in time. Mandatory in the sense of like Lee Sin's flash kick is not like mandatory, but it's like if you're good at it, it can be really, really useful. These are kind of the same thing. You don't have to know these things on Yasuo. There are many Yasuos in Challenger who don't do these things, at least a lot, but you can kind of see like if you master all of these, and when I say master, like you don't fuck them up like in actual games, it's really, really useful tech to really help you kind of like get leads faster and like do crazy things. But yeah, I'll end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Like and subscribe, and later.